thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a moment and really helps the show reach more loss and infertility families. Bereaved Mother's Day is this Sunday, May 5th. I know this can be such a tough day for so many people. You may be missing your baby. You may be missing your own mom. You may be desperately wanting to be a mom, but struggling with infertility. There are just so many things that can cause grief during this time. Please be gentle with yourself and your feelings. You can choose to honor yourself this day, or you can choose to just pretend it's like any other day and ignore it. That's the great thing about being in charge of your own grief journey. You get to decide how you want to approach things like Bereaved Mother's Day. There is no right or wrong way. And I want to remind you that my inbox is always open for you. So the organization spotlight today is from Sarah with Heard and Held. Here is what she had to say.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about Heard and Held. We are a nonprofit organization that sends care packages free of charge to mothers experiencing pregnancy and infant loss. I started Heard and Held after receiving a care package from a fellow lost mom when I experienced my own miscarriage. I decided to pay it forward by sending care packages to friends and then to friends of friends. Soon, the dream of Heard and Held was born, and that dream became a reality in June of 2022. Each care package includes comforting items such as body care products, cozy socks, a bracelet, and a handwritten card. All items are made with clean, natural ingredients. Boxes also include a few faith-based items, including a devotional journal and a tear jar. Heard and Held is based in East Tennessee, but we also ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and to date, we have sent care packages to 33 different states. We primarily serve mothers who have experienced a loss of a pregnancy or infant from birth to 2 years of age, roughly within the last 3 years. In addition to providing care packages, Heard and Held also has a blog, maintains a private Facebook support group, and hosts several local events throughout the year. Our mission is to embrace families who are experiencing loss, to validate their grief, and to offer hope and compassionate support. If you or someone you love is experiencing pregnancy or infant loss, you may request a care package online at heardandheld.com.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing about your organization with us. Today, I am talking with Rebecca. She had a few missed miscarriages before she was officially trying to get pregnant. She then experienced the neonatal loss of her daughter shortly after birth due to an incompetent cervix. Rebecca shares her experience getting both an emergency cerclage and a transabdominal cerclage along with her loss story. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Rebecca. Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Rebecca Lynch. I am from Dallas, Texas. I'm a teacher and a wife and a dog mom and a mom/lost mom. And when I'm not teaching my ruly teenagers at school, my husband and I, we try to head out to the mountains or get out into nature as much as we can.
I didn't realize you were from Dallas. That's where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Atlanta now, but grew up, born and raised in Dallas until like 3 years ago. So,
okay, you got out before really crowded.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been kind of glad I'm not in Texas this year with that intense summer, but
it's been pretty brutal.
So, can you talk a little bit about your loss story?
Yeah. So my husband and I, we've been together for 12 years, married for 6. And we started trying a few years ago. We had, miscarriages before we officially started trying after we got married. But they were always missed miscarriages because they were so early. I didn't even know I was pregnant until it was slapping me in the face that I wasn't. And so when we really started trying, I started, recording cycles and testing fertility days and ovulation days and all the things. It took us about a year to get pregnant with Caroline. And so because of our experiences in the past, it was always just kind of, we were holding our breath, like if we can make it past the first trimester, we're good. If we can make it to 16 weeks, we're good. And so we found out we were pregnant in December of 22. And we were just so excited we couldn't contain it. And so we told everybody probably earlier than what most people do, but we had so many people who knew about our prior losses and just the struggle to get pregnant and stay pregnant. And so we told everybody January to February-ish. And thankfully, when I went to my pregnancy confirmation appointment with my OB, we were actually closer to 9 or 10 weeks. So I was able to make it through almost the first trimester without seeing anybody. And it was pretty uneventful. I mean, up until probably 20 weeks, it was a pretty easy pregnancy. So we had spring break. I went on a trip with my kiddos at school, and every appointment leading up to it, I asked my OB, I'm on a flight to Paris. Is that going to be okay? And she said, it's fine. And I checked every time. I was like, I can cancel the trip. I don't have to go. She's like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So I thought, okay. So we went to Paris, we went to Switzerland, we went to Germany. And so when I got home, I was, exhausted. Looking back, I'm really grateful for that trip because I got to travel to that extent with Caroline, and, we kind of got to travel together. But the day we got back officially was my 20-week anatomy scan. So I went in for my appointment, and she looked great. She was fine, but my cervix was gone and open. There was no denying it. Luckily, my husband was with me at that appointment because we thought we were going to get all the pictures and all the things. But they ended up sending us straight to the emergency room and L&D to have an emergency cerclage put in to try and save the pregnancy. So the doctor that put it in, we did it right away. They kept me over the long weekend. And they were really happy with the stitch. It was a good placement. The doctor that put it in, Dr. Weiss, he was really happy with it. And they monitored me for the weekend, and then they sent me home because I was closed back up. And I was told, modified bed rest. So my doctor said that, I could still go to work, but being a teacher, obviously that was going to look a lot different. And everybody at school knew what was going on. And so they, I had people in the hallway when I'd go to the bathroom. What are you doing? Go sit down. I said, well, I gotta go to the bathroom. And so what ended up happening is my seniors, bless them, they would roll me to the bathroom in my chair. And so we did that for 2 weeks, and I felt fine. I was a little sore from the procedure, but nothing crazy. And she was still super active the whole time, and she was fine. And then I went in for my checkup, and my OB wasn't happy with what she was seeing. My cervix was still opening. I was funneling on both sides of the stitch. And so really the only thing that was keeping her in there was that stitch. So they sent me back to L&D and to the antepartum unit, and they monitored me over the weekend. They gave me some, I was on magnesium for 12 hours, and that was top 5 worst things ever. But it stopped the contractions, and I was having contractions, but that stopped it. And then as soon as I came off the magnesium, my water broke. But they didn't seem concerned, which I thought was weird. It's, I'm only 20 weeks. Why are we not concerned about having basically no fluid left? So they kept me again over the long weekend. It was Easter weekend. And so luckily we were out of school. And so I wasn't missing a whole bunch of time with my kids, but then they sent me home, and they said, you are on bed rest, bed rest. You are not to go back to work. You are on strict bed rest. And so I said, okay, if that's what we got to do, then that's what we got to do. And I'll admit I'm the world's worst patient, but that was a eye-opening experience. And it was, this is what you got to do. So I said, okay. So I went home Sunday afternoon, and by Tuesday, I think I was back in the hospital, because the contractions I were having at home, they were too intense and they were too close. And so we went back, and I ended up losing my mucus plug at home. And that's kind of what stress, that kind of sent us into a tizzy and really got me back to the hospital. And we tried again. And then I was there for a few days, and it was basically, you're just going to be on the antepartum unit until you deliver. And we're really going to hope for, it was, I guess I was at 22 weeks then. And so they were just really hoping and praying that I could make it to week 24, to viability week. And in my mind, the whole time I was like, well, of course I'm going to, like, I've made it this far. Why would, like, surely not. I'm not going to have 4 miscarriages and my 5th time being pregnant. I'm going to lose it this late. Like, there's just no way that could happen to me. It was that, that happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me, So I stayed in the hospital for a few more days, and then we monitored in the morning and at night, Caroline, and, we checked me and all the things. And then, I remember, let's see, it was April 16th because that was her birthday. It was the morning, and I had just eaten, and I hadn't been outside in almost a week. And so I asked my husband, I'm like, can you ask them if they, like, I'll stay seated the whole time and I'll keep my legs up, I promise. But can I just go sit outside for like 10 minutes, just get some fresh air, get out of this hospital air for a little bit. And the nurses were like, yeah, we'll check, we'll call the doctor. And then they came in to take my weight. They came in to check Caroline that morning, and the doctor on call wasn't happy with what she was hearing. And so they wheeled me out of antepartum and sent me to labor and delivery. And they monitored me for a little bit. And Dr. Myers, one of my OB's partners, came in, and she's like, she's in distress. Like, she's wrapping herself up in her cord. And so her heartbeat is not where we want it. She, you don't have your fluid anymore. So she doesn't have anything cushioning her. And she's, she's always been super active. So she's moving around a whole bunch. And so they're like, we're going to deliver. And I'm like, but I was 23 and 4 days. So I was 3 or 4 days away from viability week. And I was like, do we really have to? And they're like, yeah, we have to. And I mean, at that point I'd gotten the steroids to help her lungs and all the things. So they came in, they gave me the epidural, they got my husband gowned up, and then they wheeled us back. And then, I don't remember a whole lot from the room. I just remember tugging and pulling. And I remember them saying, okay, baby's out. And then they put me under. They gave me the gas and put me under. And the whole time I was in and out, I was like, why is my husband not? Because I told him, I'm like, you go with her. They'll take care of me. I'm not worried about me. You go with her to the NICU. And he never left. And so I kept thinking, why is he not leaving? Why is he not going with her? And so apparently I was out for about 20-ish, 30 minutes. And I woke up, and my husband was still in the room. And I was like, why are you here? Why are you not with her? And that was kind of my first clue that she didn't make it. They were able to intubate. They were able to work on her. And she was so close. She was so close. And they couldn't get her heart rate strong enough and get it back. Which even today, it's been a few months, but even today, I'm just like, how, like, she had a super strong heartbeat the whole time. And so I just wonder if she would have made it if, they would have just taken her out when my water broke instead of just leaving her in there. I'm not the doctor, and now I wish I would have advocated more for myself and for her, especially because, this was my first pregnancy that far. So I didn't know. I didn't know what incompetent cervix was or anything like that. So we
It's
had
really
her.
hard to know, what you don't know because you've never been through it before. You don't know what to ask. You don't know, like you just don't know.
Yep, 100%. And the nurses they were wonderful. And, we got to stay with her for 4 days in the hospital. And, she never left our room except for when they went to, take measurements and all the things. And, so the doctors and nurses were really kind in giving us, they would have let us stayed for a week if we had wanted, but eventually, you gotta go. So that was our experience with Caroline. And so every day since then, it's just been, how can we be better prepared for her siblings next time? And how can we let other people know to advocate and, talk about incompetent cervix? Because, so many, I work in a high school, so I've got plenty of other women there who've gone through multiple pregnancies and they've never even heard of it. And to me, that's just crazy. That's something that's really so common that I've learned in the last few months. Is never even mentioned until you have it, which just seems crazy to me.
It really does. It seems like something that they could easily just check for and like ahead of time so you could prevent all of these losses. I don't understand why that's not something they regularly check for.
What I've been told is that you don't know what your cervix is going to do until you are pregnant, to a certain point. And I get that. I see that. But at the same time, I just feel like, if I would have had more cervical checks, even, 14 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and not have waited till the halfway point, really, that we could have caught it earlier, especially with as many past losses as I had. Granted, they were early, but, why aren't, what, or even if it isn't something that you think your patient might have, why is it not even discussed? We do the genetic testing, we do all the other things, preventive, and why isn't this one, why do we have to go through a loss at all just to figure out that, oh, you have IC? So.
Because checking for that is just ultrasound, right? Just checking the length, or do they have to actually?
Yep. Yep.
That sounds so simple. Just like add it. I know they don't like doing so many ultrasounds, but it's like if you just add another one in there somewhere just to check for that real quick, how hard would that be?
And here's the crazy thing is the next time I'm pregnant, they're going to do, I'll see an MFM once a week, or not once a week, but every other week. And then I'll see my OB in the other time, the middle time between that MFM. So if I'm doing them as a high risk patient now, then why wasn't it? If it's not good, then surely it's not good for a high risk patient either. So either it's not good or it is good. Like, which one is it? So luckily now I had my surgery 3 weeks ago. I had my TAC put in, so that has a nearly like an 89 to a 95% success rate in future pregnancies. So I'm really fortunate that my my MFM now was willing to do it, because typically they don't let you have a TAC after a failed emergency cerclage. Usually they make you do a preventative at 14 weeks in your next pregnancy. And then if that fails, then they'll consider giving you a TAC. But I was really fortunate that she said, I think one loss is too many. Let's do this. So I'm really grateful for her. So, hopefully in the future, my TAC will hold and Caroline will have a whole bunch of siblings.
So I'm familiar with, I've heard the term, but what exactly is a TAC?
So a TAC is a transabdominal cerclage. Typically, the cerclage I had with Caroline was an emergency cerclage done vaginally. And so those are typically either, if it's an emergency, my doctor, which upset me a little bit, but it is what it is, I guess. She flat out told me, she's like, at the point that you were at, emergency cerclages usually they don't work. We try and it's, we do everything we can, but normally they don't work. And I'm like, that would have been nice to know, because I was thinking, we got this great stitch and everything's great. It would have been nice to know that. And then you have the preventative that you can get between like 12 and 14 weeks while pregnant, which is still done again vaginally. And then there's even some surgeons who will do an abdominal cerclage while you're pregnant. And then you can have a pre-pregnancy abdominal cerclage or tack put in. So that's what I fought for, is that's what I wanted, because I had gotten a bad infection when I had my emergency cerclage put in. And I really think that that's why it ultimately failed, was because the infection was in there. Then my cervix closed up after the procedure, but it was just in there festering. And that's what caused the preterm labor, as extreme as it was, to happen. And so I advocated and I fought with insurance, fought with the doctors. No, I want it done before I'm pregnant again, because I just think that that's my best case scenario, since I was so prone to infections with Caroline. So
I'm definitely glad you found someone who was, willing to do that for you, because you're right. One loss is too many.
It's too many, and nobody should have that. I mean, my doctors did everything they could. It was just one of those things where, unfortunately, with IC or insufficient cervix, there are some things you can do preventively, but it's until you're in it, you don't know.
So have you been able to connect with other people who have gone through the same type of loss?
A little bit, mostly through Instagram and, Facebook groups and things like that. There's really great Facebook groups for incompetent cervix. And then there's also one specifically for moms who've had a loss, who are now TAC moms. And so they've been super helpful. I mean, you drop a question in there and somebody's answering you within 10 minutes. And, it's very encouraging, because we do I haven't gotten the chance to do a birth announcement yet, but hopefully someday soon. They do birth announcements and we do IC. And so that's been really encouraging, and kind of reestablished my hope that I will have more children.
I think it's always nice to be able to connect with other people who have been through something similar to you, and then see like the positive outcome. So you see, like, I know that I can get there too.
Yeah, 100%. It's comforting for sure.
So it sounds like overall you had a pretty supportive health team.
I would say so. During the thick of it, I was definitely a little upset with them. There's a little bitterness for sure. But now that I've had time to, collect myself and reflect a little bit, I realized that my team was really great. I hear stories, especially in our TAC group on Facebook, that they make them go through an emergency cerclage, and then a preventative, and then a second preventative before they'll ever even consider it. Or that some hospitals and doctors don't even let you stay, with your stillborn at all. They just, you go to the room by yourself and you don't see them and you don't get to spend time with your baby. And so I've been very, very grateful for the time that the hospital and our doctors and nurses gave us with Caroline. Because it wasn't enough time, but no time would have ever been enough. But I can't even imagine not having any time. So
it just seems cruel, honestly, like to not even let them spend any time at all.
Oh, yeah. And I've read articles and done research about, the mental effects of not letting, mothers bond with their babies, even if they are stillborn. The long-term effects are awful. And it's such a antiquated way of thinking. of, maternal medicine and maternal care.
You hear like all those stories of, people who had lost like, many years ago who weren't able to ever even talk about it, or like they had to just pretend like it didn't happen. And I mean, to some extent, I feel like we're still there, but getting better. Like we still have to kind of pretend it's like, it's not happening, but it does.
Exactly. Almost like okay, like it's been a month, it's time to move on, and there is no moving on from losing your baby. You can move forward, but you can't ever move on from it. And that has been something that I will say me and my husband are very lucky. We have a very supportive group of friends and family who, I mean, we talk about Caroline, my friends at school, my students even that have graduated, they still message me and they're like, I heard this song and it made me think of Caroline. I just wanted you to know that, people think about her.
That is the sweetest.
Yeah, my students are the best, and I wouldn't have been able to get through this year without them. And people still, we drove past because we did a memorial service for Caroline at my in-laws' property, and we planted a tree. And so a lot of my friends live out that way, and they drive that way into work, and they're like, we say hi to Caroline every morning on our way to work. And that should be, the narrative, that our babies lived, even if it was for a short while. And it's okay to talk about them. I mean, people still say insensitive or misplaced things, but we're not going to get better by, talking about it in hushed tones and skirting around it.
And we can't pretend like it never happened.
And the idea that, getting pregnant next time, that'll erase the pain, or it'll finally get you a baby. No, I have a baby. I had a baby. I still have a baby. She's just not here. I'm just so lucky that I have the support network that I do, because I know not a lot of people have that.
And it makes me sad to know that there are people who have like zero support at all. And sometimes like some of the stuff that people have said that other people like have said to them, I'm like, I can't believe like those words came out of somebody's mouth. Like that's awful. Like I don't know why like pregnancy loss in general is like the thing people are the most insensitive about. Like you wouldn't say that about other types of loss. Why are you saying it about this type of loss?
Yeah, you don't say it about your parents or a sibling or your spouse. So why my child?
Yeah, I've never, I don't know. I think it's just because people are maybe like the most uncomfortable with that type of loss.
Well, I mean, loss is uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be, something that you sit comfortably in. It's the whole process is uncomfortable. And, if you don't want to sit in that, that ick with me, then okay, but maybe you're not my people.
I feel like loss really shows you like who's there for you and who's not. And for me personally, it's never like who you think it's going to be. Sometimes it's like these random people.
I mean, most of my best friends are people that I work with at my school. And I work on a pretty big campus, and when everything happened with Caroline, and I mean, I was out for 6 or 8 weeks at the end of the school year. The people that showed up the most, I mean, of course, my closest, I mean, my best friend at work is Caroline's godmother. And she was kind of my spokesperson while I was out. And she, God bless her, she had to handle all the things while I was gone. But it was just really surprising to me, when she would come over and check in, or we would just visit, just who at school was really reaching out, concerned. I mean, there was the people, of course, I knew would be, but I was really surprised by who did. But on the flip side of that, I was really shocked and hurt by the people who didn't. People I thought that who knew our story, who knew we'd suffer losses, who I considered friends and that I was close with and who knew everything, like, didn't say a word. Even when I did come back to school that last week, they skirted around it. And you're allowed to be uncomfortable by it. That's your feelings, and I'm allowed to have my feelings, and you're allowed to have yours. But I was really surprised by who stepped up and who kind of just disappeared, or weren't there at all.
Well, and I think people don't understand that the saying nothing is sometimes worse than even saying like something insensitive. Like just like disappearing and like saying nothing, to me personally, was like the most hurtful you could be. Like at least like those who said something insensitive, like they were trying, even
They
if it wasn't the right thing.
their heart may have been in the right place, just their mouth wasn't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I would take an insensitive comment over nothing any day, because at least an insensitive comment opens up the conversation for, this can be a teaching moment, let me help you.
Exactly.
Let me help you be better. I mean, it's not my job to be better, but if I'm gonna bring awareness to this thing and to child loss and to IC, then those moments have to happen. So I'd rather them happen than not happen.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
So was it hard for you to go back to work?
So my doctor, um, they were 100% on board with me wanting to not go back at all. They would have signed whatever I wanted for them so I could submit it to the district so that I wouldn't have to go back. But my group of seniors this past year, they were my first group that I ever taught. And I had a plan when I started teaching. I was going to teach them, and then I was going to wrap around and teach them their senior year, which lucked out. I was really fortunate. A spot opened up in the prep that I wanted. So that group, they were the COVID freshman group. I loved them. They were the best kids. And our second semester, their freshman year, got ripped away from us because of COVID, and I didn't get to finish with them. So this year, it was kind of this past school year was kind of a do-over with them. I got to have them. And then I got pregnant, which was always the plan. I told them when they were freshmen, I was like, well, I want to be pregnant your senior year, because that'll give me a good time to get established and like get comfortable in this whole teaching thing. And I want to be pregnant y'all senior year. So that way my first group of babies are going off into the world and I'm having my own baby, when y'all leave. And that was the plan. I mean, they had planned a baby shower for me at school, all the things. And then spring break hit, we went on our trip. I came back and nothing was ever the same. And so again, I got that ripped away. We didn't get to finish our year together the way we had intended. It got ripped away. And so on top of that getting taken away, Caroline got taken away. And so my therapist and my doctors, we all agreed that me going back just to finish, I mean, I just went back for the last week of school, and with seniors, that's not really it's not real school that last week, but it was good to get to go back and kind of close that out with them. And for me, it was better than sitting at home. I think if I had, if Caroline wouldn't have been our first baby, if she had an older sibling, then I probably would have stayed home. But I was just at home with me and the dogs because my husband, he had to go back to work. So it was healing and it was needed. But once the excitement of the first day back kind of wore off, that second and third day, it was rough. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was just pure sadness that, my baby's gone and now my seniors are about to be gone too. So it was just a whole wave of emotion. I think going back for this new school year, because we started about a month ago already. I think that was harder. starting a whole new year and having to, because I teach freshmen and I teach seniors, so like a lot of my seniors, they know me, and they know that I was gone last year. But my freshman babies, they don't know me. I'm brand new, and so I missed the second week of school to have my tack surgery, and so I had to tell them the first week of school, them knowing me for all of 2 days, I'm going to be gone next week, and this is why. And having to, the first day of school kind of gave me a lot of anxiety, because it's the about me. This is who I am. I'm your teacher. This is my husband. These are my dogs. Okay, what do I say about Caroline? Not telling anyone about her. That's wrong. And I know, like, as a mom, like, that's just not, I couldn't do that. And that would be a huge slap in the face, I feel like, to my baby and her memory. But it's also, you don't know how people are going to react, especially a room full of 30, 14-year-olds. Like, who knows what they're going to do? But they were all great. They were all so receptive, and they all told me, Miss, if you need to take all of next week off, you take all of next week off. And I thought that was the sweetest thing. And so going back to work right away, right after Caroline in May, was hard. But for me, starting school and having to start all over and tell everyone again, all over, my story and where I'm at, that was hard. But again, I work with some of the best people in the world, and I have some of the best kids in my classroom. And so the part I was dreading didn't come to fruition, which I'm really grateful for. It could have been really awkward, and it could have been really hard, but my kids and my team were, they were fantastic, and they were super supportive. But there's still days where it's like, I shouldn't, because Caroline's due date was August 10th, the first week of school. So there are days right now where I'm just like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be at school right now. I'm supposed to be at home on maternity leave. And that's been, for me, the hardest part, is still trying to find purpose and teaching and my job and the things, and with the thought in the back of my head, like, I'm not supposed to be here right now. I'm supposed to be at home, with my newborn, and I'm not. So those days are hard.
It is really hard, especially when, you go back to the same place that you were working before, and you have, the memories of you being pregnant there, or, things like that. I know that was really hard for me as well. And it's just, there's just, people don't understand that you lose your baby, but you lose so much more than that. Like, you lose so much, surrounding all of that. And it's so hard to even, like, describe how much it changes you.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the big things that I had to talk myself through, and that I spend a lot of time in therapy with, is, I was a good teacher. People will say, Becca, you're a great teacher, but I'm just like, yeah, I was a good teacher. But it's just like, I was so worried, and I still am, that I'm not going to be that same teacher to these kids. And my big thing was, when I started the school year, my prayer and my thoughts for myself were, be the teacher that you would want Caroline to have, and so I try to remind myself that every day. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not that same person anymore. I wasn't a mom before, and now I am. It's not the mom in the traditional sense that most people picture, but I am a mom. And it's having to balance being this lost mom, and being a teacher, and being a wife, and being a friend, and a daughter, and all the things. And it's like, how do I do that? When I don't even know, to a degree, I don't even know who this new me is yet, because it is still fresh, and there's so much defining still left to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's, it's like we have to, like, re-find ourselves again and figure out, like, okay, this is how I'm going to move forward in my new normal, with doing the same things I did before, but now knowing that I should have had a daughter that I don't have.
Yep. It's like, how do I redefine what my life is supposed to look like, um and that, I mean, that's what my, in therapy, and my counselor, my therapist, she's always, this is a rebirth for you. You are a new person. You get to kind of, I don't want to say start over, but in a sense, you get to kind of start over and redefine what, teacher Becca looks like, and what wife Becca and now mom Becca look like, and how, how does that make up the new person that you are? So it's a balancing act, and it's definitely a learning curve.
It is. And, it's one of those things, there's not like a guidebook for how to get through any of this. We just kind of have to figure it out as we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So were there any particular things that helped you or are helping you get through your grief?
For sure, I would say just the lost mom community. Um, it's probably the suckiest group to be a part of, but I will say the women that I've connected with, you included, have gotten me through some really rough, minutes, hours, days, weeks. We it's interesting that, social media accounts, or, Facebook groups or podcasts, when I don't know how to express, what's going through my head, it's amazing to me that there's another mom out there who's thought those same things and has put it into words, and shared it with others. And again, it's really sad, and it sucks big time that we have to be a part of this group, but I'm really, really grateful for it. I started journaling. I mean, I'm not a big journaler. I never have been, but I did. And that's really helped. And I turned that journal into a pod or a blog. Not really for any specific purpose other than just, if somebody comes across it and reads it and it helps them, then that's great. But for me, it's been trying to find a purpose or like a mission, really. And so, caring for Caroline, the blog and the social media platform, and I'm hoping to eventually turn it into, a nonprofit and do things, spread awareness about insufficient cervix, and, help families going through losses due to that. That's been helpful and kind of healing for me, is, because those first few days after we came home from the hospital, I was like, what do I even do? What this, I was supposed to have a baby and I don't. So what is my purpose now? And so that's been really helpful over the last, 6 months, finding a purpose and kind of making it a mission that, fewer and fewer moms hopefully have to experience loss due to insufficient cervix. So
I think that's great that you're, doing that to help spread the awareness and sharing your story. And, I think other people, if just one person reads it, it's done its job, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
But yeah, I definitely had that same moment, like when I came home from the hospital without Jasmine, and I just come home, it's just like, now what? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't, it's just like this weird moment where you're like, I don't know what to do.
It's like you don't know, like, I know I should be doing the house chores and I should be doing X, Y, and Z. And for me, it was, everyone was like, Becky, you had an emergency C-section. Like, you're allowed to lay up on the couch and just relax and heal. And I'm like, yeah, but it'd be different if I was laid up on the couch with my baby and I was taking it easy. I failed. My body failed, and I don't deserve to, take it easy, because I don't have a baby here to take care of, like, why? No. So what do I do? And there were days where I'd get up and I'd, manic clean the house, or manic reorganize the kitchen cabinets or the cleaning closet. And I'd sit back down and I'd be like, oh, why am I in so much pain? Why is everything hurting? and my mom or my husband would be like, Becky, if Caroline was here, you would still be sitting in bed or you'd be laying on the couch. Like you wouldn't be out doing these things. You'd be taking care of her. And that's okay. And I'm like, but no, I don't get to take it easy because I failed, like I failed as a mom. I don't get to take it easy. So that was really hard to, like navigate because I'm a busybody. Like I'm always going, I can't sit still. So being forced to basically have to listen to my body was hard because, you know, if I would have listened to my body a little bit more, maybe I would have caught, my cervix basically disappearing completely. And again, I know that's not a super healthy way to think, but that's, I feel like anytime you lose somebody, it's like, what could I have done differently? And so I just hope that I can help others, and myself in the future advocate better and be like, no, this is what my body's telling me. Let's do something about it. Let's listen. So if anything, I hate the idea that, a loss is a lesson. I don't believe that at all. And I hate when people say that. But I mean, I have learned things in losing Caroline, I think it would be a disservice to her and her memory if I didn't. And so if anything, I've learned to listen to my body more, and to just know that, it's okay to take it easy and, take a breather.
Yeah, I'm definitely more like that. I like to stay busy. I was like, I can't, like I went back to work way too fast. And in retrospect, I should have taken longer, but I was just like, I can't stay here doing nothing all day, like being sad all day. I just can't do it, And like I said, I probably rushed it, but it was just like, I just needed to be doing something.
Yeah, I feel that. And it was, that's what, I mean, a lot of my kids, they were like, because I mean, I went to school with my belly band still on and like my waist trainer on because I was still super swollen. And I mean, I couldn't take the stairs. I had to take the elevator. And they were just like, why are you here? And I go, because being here with y'all and getting to see y'all like enjoy your last week of high school is way better than me sitting at home crying that my baby's not here, and at some point, not to say that you shouldn't cry, because I mean, there's still days I cry on my way to work, or on my way home. But at some point, it's just like, I can't cry anymore right now. I gotta do something.
So, do you have any other advice for people that are newly going through loss?
The big thing is for me, feel what you feel. I feel like people kept trying to tell me, it'll get better, it'll get better. And yes, eventually you can get up in the morning and be productive and not feel like your whole world is crashing down on you. But own what you feel. I feel like we live, in a society or a culture that's, all about toxic positivity. Sometimes, and no, sometimes there is no bright side. Sometimes things just suck, and that's okay. I mean, not to say that you should sit there forever and stay in that place, but you're allowed to sit there. And also, talk about your baby, and just for me, the hardest thing was having these, possible conversations in my head with people, saying insensitive things or, telling me you need to move on, and me having to, say to people who I thought were my friends, no, like this was my baby. You wouldn't say that if your 5-year-old died, people wouldn't expect you to move on, in 5 months after that. Like that's absurd. So don't be afraid, the people who are there for you, they'll show up. And the people who aren't, this new version of you that, will take time to redefine and figure out who it is, they don't need those people in your life. you know. If they love you and they love your baby, then they'll let you talk about your baby, and they will ask you about your baby, and they'll bring your baby up to you. They won't just let it be something that you bring up all the time. They'll talk about them. So I mean, unfortunately, even through infant pregnancy, child loss, sometimes you lose friends and you lose family, and loss is greater than just the child or the baby that was lost. Sometimes it's those relationships too, and that sucks and it hurts, but in the end, now you know who your people are. And so when you decide not to have babies again, you'll have a really great support system, who's there for you 100%.
And I think, like you said, it can be sad to lose some of those people, but I think in the long run, like, you'll feel better about it, not having those negative people in your life.
100% agree. Yep.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
Just advocate for yourself, advocate for your baby and your pregnancy. Ask all the questions. I know researching on the internet can be dangerous sometimes, but sometimes even if it's just a question you bring to your doctor, that peace of mind, you will never regret asking the questions that give you peace of mind, or just making it, we don't, I know doctors don't bring up a lot of stuff because they don't want to worry the mom, or worry the mom while she's pregnant. But the minute that strip turns positive, we're worrying. That's ingrained in us as mothers. That's what we do, is we worry. And so I think knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have for yourself and for your baby, the better your outcomes hopefully will be. And I don't think you'll ever be mad at yourself for asking the questions and doing the advocating and trying to find out as much as you can.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing your story with us. As Rebecca and I discussed, I find it so frustrating that checking cervical length isn't something that's routinely done during pregnancy. It's easy to check for through an ultrasound, and it could potentially save countless babies by alerting people to the problem before it's too late. It could allow preventative measures to be tried. As Rebecca mentioned, there would be this extra monitoring in any future pregnancies due to the incompetent cervix diagnosis. So why then is it such a stretch to just add in precautions to check for cervical length as part of every routine pregnancy? Yes, I know it's never really as simple as it sounds. Insurance doesn't want to pay for certain things, or doctors just don't want to do certain tests. But honestly, I personally would pay out of pocket even to get that reassurance, as I'm sure many lost families would as well. As with a lot of issues that come up with pregnancy and women's health care, there just has to be a better way. Have you ever experienced an incompetent cervix diagnosis? How did doctors treat you before and after that diagnosis? I would love to hear about your experience. You can always email me at Sarah with an H at journeyforjasmine.com, or you can message me on any social media account at journeyforjasmine. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a moment and really helps the show reach more lost and infertility families. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.